Hey you guys, it's Peter and welcome to my channel, Peter Likes Books. And today I'm going to discuss something that I alluded to yesterday in my video, and that was that I had done a whole video talking about the Reader's Bill of Rights that Kathy had sent me. And I really loved this whole idea when I read it. And it was designed, I think, by the French children's author Daniel Pennac. And if you haven't seen my video from yesterday, it's probably important that you go reference that video first, or reference it. Go watch that video first, because what I'm going to do over the period of the next couple weeks, I think I said I was going to do one a week, but I might do more than that, I don't know, is that I was going to take each one of the Bill of Rights and discuss it at length in another video. So it's kind of important that you know the whole overall idea of it before I go in and just talk about each one specifically. I'll make a playlist on my channel just for the Reader's Bill of Rights, so in case you guys want to see it or whatever. Now, I have Googled it and found it all over the place. So if you guys want a copy for yourself of the Reader's Bill of Rights, they're out there. Just Google it and Reader's Bill of Rights, and you'll find the exact same one that I did. But the one that I wanted to talk about today, I'm going to go in order. So the one that I want to talk about today is the right to not read. And I think as a bookish person, as a reader, as a lover of books, you know, a lot of times we feel really bad when we don't want to read. At least I do sometimes. And it's interesting because there's always all of these videos going around on BookTube about like reading slumps and, you know, how to get into a new, book and not having read for like 2 months. And I'll see BookTube videos where people will be like, well, I haven't read a book in like 3 months and I feel horrible about that or whatever. And even when it comes to readathons, a lot of times, I'll be so excited about a readathon, and then when the week starts, it's just not the week for me to do it, if that makes sense. Like other things will happen and I'm just not excited about it. And as a booktuber or as a bookstagrammer or a book blogger or whatever, or just a reader, I think sometimes we let that get to us and we feel bad about it. Like we should be reading, or we have all these books and we haven't read them. And one of the things that helped me really get over this is that when I would watch like bigger booktubers, many of them don't read 100, 200, 300 books a year. You know, a lot of them only read 20 or 30 books a year. If you go to their channels and you look at their reviews and you look at their wrap-ups and stuff, you can kind of like ascertain that they're not reading hundreds of books. They're just reading 20 or 30. You know, they're not big booktubers because of the amount of books they read. They're big booktubers because A, they were probably some of the first around, and B, because their personalities are what drive people to their channel, if that makes sense. So it's not about the amount of books they read. I don't think that a reader should be defined by how many books you read. I had somebody comment on my video a couple days ago and they said, like I read 1 book a month, or somebody else has said before, like I read 1 book a year and I'm proud of that. And I think that reading should be something that we do for enjoyment. It should never be something that we feel pressured to do. And I fall into that sometimes, Last week, I think I said this in my video yesterday, last week on Friday, I think, I started a Buddy Reads with Julia Sapphire, and I will link her channel below. I love her content, she's amazing, and we started reading Rumble by Ellen Hopkins, okay? You can see how far I am in Rumble, and Julia is done with the book. She finished it in 2 days. She actually messaged me the next day, and she was like, I'm 250 pages in, what do you think? And I was like, I'm 50 pages in? That's what I think. So, and then so I messaged her back and I said, I'm really sorry. Like I sat down tonight and I tried to read a little bit when I got home. And so she's like, oh, don't worry about it. Take your time. And I just was like, because I always feel bad when I do a Buddy Reads with somebody and I'm behind. And typically when I do Buddy Reads with people, I'm always kind of the one that's like ahead. The last one I did was with Tom at Tom Talks. And we did The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue, and he finished it like in 3 days. And we were both listening to it on Audible. That book is fantastic, by the way. I think like Buddy Reads are kind of an interesting way to pace yourselves, but it's like you don't want to do one and then go, I don't feel like reading the book. You know what I mean? But I go through periods where I read 10 to 15 books a month, sometimes more, and I go through periods where I read 3 books a month. And like last month, I only read 5 books. And I felt bad about it because I felt like I was trying to pace myself at 8 or 10 books a month to try to hit my Goodreads goal. It's just this game I mentally play with myself, which is stupid, And really what it's all about is that I want to read books that I really enjoy, and so I'm pickier about the books I read instead of just picking up anything and being like, oh, I'm going to read this because this will count as a book. You know what I mean? I don't want to do that. And one of the things that happened recently was that my husband started listening to The Art of Tidying Up, and he really, really liked it. And so I was like, well, I haven't read like a self-help book for a while. But I was also going to start doing The Magic by Rhonda Byrne because I had done it like 2 or 3 years ago, and it's about gratitude every day in your life. And it profoundly changed my perspective. And that month, I can remember doing it. I was so happy, and I was just like, I don't know. I just felt so full of gratitude. And so anyway, I have that book. I bought The Art of Tidying Up on Audible, and I also had like How to Be a Badass. I had heard a lot of good things about that. And I have a couple nonfiction books on there that aren't long, and then I have The Magic by Rhonda Byrne. And I was like, are these books I put on my Goodreads challenge? They're not fiction. I was like, hell yeah, they're books I'm reading. And, I think the problem is that I start getting into this whole thing of like, what is a reader? And we've talked about that before. And what books should I read? And if I don't want to read a book for 4 days, sometimes I even feel guilty because I listen to so many audiobooks. That like today I was in my car and I was like, I just want to listen to music. Like I want to dance in my car and jam out. And like I don't want to like be so in the moment, always having to be like, what's going on in this audiobook? You know what I mean? But sometimes I feel really bad about it. I feel like I should be reading so that I, can talk about it and whatever. And that's stupid. One of my favorite books I've read in the last couple years was Big Little Lies by Leanne Moriarty, and they made it into an HBO movie. When we went to Mexico last summer, and it was kind of like a spur-of-the-moment trip, like we scheduled it just like a couple weeks before, and at that time, I thought I'll be in the pool, we'll just be hanging out, we're not going to be gone that long, and I always take like 3 books and then I never read them. I took the book down to the pool one day and sat there on the chair next to the pool and just devoured this book. And it was such a perfect book to read next to the pool. And so for that trip, I was really into reading. I even went down to the concierge and I was like, do you guys have any books? And he was like, we have like art books, like books that show art of the area. And I was like, no, like books that people have left behind, anything, I don't care. James Patterson, W. McComber, anything, do anything that somebody left behind. He was like, no, I don't really understand what you mean. And I go, books, like paperback books, like anything, like I've got to read a book. And he was like, no. And I have it, on my Kindle, I had books, but that's different to me than devouring like a physical book, So it's interesting the periods that I go through when I really, really want to read something and when I don't. And what I've learned is that I have to allow myself to take breaks if I don't want to read and not force it. And then I'll come back, because what happened last year was like January, February, March, I didn't read a whole lot. But then after that, I read like 10 books a month. And I was just, in every book I picked up, it was interesting when I was going, because here I am going off on a tangent. It was interesting when I was going through my best of for 2017. From that point on, every book I read was really, really good. But in January, February, March, they weren't all that great. And that's kind of what I'm struggling with right now, is like I've read some good books, but like the books I pick up and start, I have a hard time getting into them. So it's easier just to say, oh, I'm not going to read, than go pick up another book, But when I do read a really, really good book, as soon as I finish it, I want to read another really, really good book, and then another really, really good book. And I'll always be a reader. I'll always love to read, but I don't want to force myself to have to read all the time. And, I especially think it's, a booktuber or a bookstagrammer or as a book blogger where we're putting content out about books. Sometimes we think to ourselves, well, what am I going to make a video about if I haven't read a book, right? Well, first of all, you don't have to put a video out. And second of all, or, whatever, but, like I can't remember whose bookstagram I was looking at the other day. I always feel like I need to take pictures on my bookstagram account of books that I'm currently reading, but so that's why I don't post a lot of pictures on there, because, whatever. And I was like, these people like constantly are posting pictures that they just pull off their bookshelf. I could do that too and do some real artistic. Well, they wouldn't probably look real artistic, but you know what I mean? Like I just pull up random books and take pictures of them. Why not? And I feel like the one thing that this Reader's Bill of Rights has done for me, is it has kind of opened my mind to relaxing in reading and not feel so pressured about what I'm reading or the way that I think about it or having to read this book or having to read that book and all this kind of stuff. And in fact, my best friend Tanya was telling me the other day about a book that she got, and it's on the New York Times bestseller list. I cannot remember what it is, but it's about the girls that are in the orphanage, and they're on the front of it. They're both looking the other way with their backs to the cover. And she's like, it's so good, you have to read it. And I was like, oh, another book I have to read. And she had just told me about another book that I had to read, you know? And there's enough time for me to read a lot of books, I hope. So, and if I don't get to them, I don't get to them in my life. But I will have said that I've read a lot of great books, because I have, and I don't want to speed through it, and I don't want to rush, and I don't want to feel like I have to read and all that kind of stuff. I want to enjoy life too, and I think that that's important. You know, we need to learn to relax and enjoy life, and reading should be something that we do for fun. It should be something that we should do for enjoyment. It shouldn't feel like it's something that we're pressured to do. And so I'm going to take that off my shoulders and throw it away and just go into the rest of the year enjoying reading and loving to read. I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.